You mentioned Adam Azim. There's a lot of talk about the Dalton Smith fight
Yeah.
and that building. That fight for you, does that need to happen now, or is it one for the future?
No, 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 let it bubble. To be honest, Dalton Smith didn't look great in his last fight against a guy who looked like really like a super featherweight. However, I know for sure that Adam would have got that guy out of there very quickly. But yeah, it's a good fight. It's great to have a guy, a domestic guy who's exciting and who's interesting to look at and a potential fight coming down the line. But far better to let it marinate, let them win both. Well, if they can both win world titles, then it makes it for a much bigger fight, a much bigger occasion. So I think that's the way we'll go. Happy to fight him immediately if he wanted, but it's far better, I think, to let it marinate and let it develop. The only example of fighting early in your career against a very, equally good challenger, a guy that's almost as good as you are, is the Thomas Hearns Ray Leonard fight. And that's really only the only one. Can you give me another one where guys fought when they were still in the development stages? And there isn't any. And people say, "Oh yeah, that was a great." Had I been looking after either Tommy Hearns or Leonard, I wouldn't have put them in at that stage. I would let it go for maybe another 9 months, a year before I would have, and maybe Tommy would have done better. But it's this thing is about the fighting at the right time and not being forced by people blagging you and bad mouthing you and saying rude and horrible things about you. That doesn't matter. I mean, that's all forgotten in an instant. What matters is the result. And I think we're happy to fight Dalton Smith at the right time, and because I know that Adam's still getting better, and I'm sure it wasn't a great performance last week for Dalton Smith. It wasn't an ideal opponent, um, but it did give you some sort of tactical insights into Dalton Smith, um, which I don't think done him any favors. He dropped the guy, and he looked good in spurts, but he wasn't that impressive. I'm not, particularly worried about that fight. I think that fight should marinate and take place further down the line. But it's definitely a very exciting prospect.
Absolutely.